and Forlan were such big contributors in a lot of these fights, but also like the fact that Vert was able to survive so many of these early ganks that a 1907 Fenerbahce were trying to throw down onto him was a big part as to why they were able to get through the early game unfazed.
So much of it comes down to which team is able to get ahead in the early game, which team is able to push away their enemy, and I want to see exactly how the two junglers play around each other as well. We talked about it, it's Crash into Forlan. Alongside that, bringing a new factor into the mix with Marth coming in, the question is then, does Forlan put more effort to going towards mid and trying to shut down Frozen, or are we going to see a lot of ganks up towards that top side, which is what Forlan has been doing in the past?
Well, I think the introduction of Marth actually increases the likelihood of more action happening down in the bottom lane. A big part of this whole series has been, will Padden step up? How will he perform? And both he and Japone have been building lanes in the 2 versus 2 pretty consistently so far throughout this series. And with the introduction of Marth, I think that could be a way to shut that down. This guy does like to roam around the map. His Taliyah was relatively impressive when he played up in the play-ins group stages. And I think that that'll be one of the game plans. Maybe invest a few more resources down into this bottom lane. Because I feel like that's just the one aspect we've seen from 1907 Fenerbahce that hasn't been properly punished. That 2v2 lane is a big window that you can exploit. Yet teams have struggled to properly do it. And that's what I'm going to be evaluating for Team 1. Will they adapt that style, or are they going to stick to just leaving that 2v2 on an island and then playing more towards on the top side, which is what we've seen a lot of so far in this series.
And we were just waiting for Marth to go through his pre-game checklist, make sure that everything was in order. Of course, we don't want him to be playing on a setup he's not comfortable with, and I think we are pretty much done with that, so we should be getting into Champion Select relatively soon. Vedius, you are standing off camera there.
I was writing in my notebook.
Blending into the background in your blue jacket.
Yes, you're looking great today, by the way.
Thank you, so are you.
You're welcome. Anyway, let's jump into Champion Select. It looks like we're going to see some slight shifts from 1907 Fenerbahce, but they will bring back the Galio ban, which they were not able to do. And Team 1, there it is. There is the Kalista ban straight away. They do not want to have to deal with that once more. They've said, nope. We know you're pretty good at it, so they're also going to ban away the Taliyah, which I think is quite interesting, especially seeing as so far this tournament, of course, earlier in the day we saw it coming out from Frozen. He did have a great game 1 with it, so still showing respect towards it there, but also it was one of the comfort picks for Marth that he brought out during the group stage.
There's the Jarvan removed, and now Team 1 have a decision to make. Can look towards something like the Tristana, something like the Sejuani. There's some power picks. We've seen Japone in the past play good supports as well, and it will be the Lulu removed by Team 1. So lots of options available here for 1907 Fenerbahce.
Interesting. So Xayah Rakan still up and available, but if 1907 Fenerbahce go for something like the Xayah, then Team 1 can go for the Rakan. They can break up the combo. But even then, we've seen they've found answers to this combo anyway, so maybe Team 1 esports are not that afraid of dealing with it. Interesting that we're seeing a range support being early prioritized by Japone. Typically, you would expect either a Rakan or a Thresh to come out as an answer to it, because during the early laning phase, Janna doesn't really do that much other than facilitate the trading power of your AD carry.
And both these AD carries have been prioritizing the Tristana early on, so with Vert locking that in for Absolute here, you do have the option to pick up your support. You have a bunch of different options as well, and something we haven't seen throughout this tournament, because it's been banned a lot of the time, is that Forlan Olaf pick.
You are very correct. It is a big comfort for him. He does the hover, but instead he chooses to play more for the team rather than for comfort. He will lock in the engage, the utility, the arguably S-tier jungler in the current meta in the form of Sejuani, and Team 1 already starting to build themselves a pretty solid team fight composition. You would expect their support to come out on the next rotation, or they go for a similar trend to what they did in Game 1, and they lock in something like the Syndra.
Crash will get his Gragas once again. Seen him play that a few times across the course of this tournament. Very comfortable on it, and it will be the Syndra for Fenerbahce here, so they lock that in for Frozen in the mid lane, a very strong mid laner, and makes Team 1 have to make a choice. Do you go mid pick here, or do you look towards that Rakan in the supporting role?
Ooh, interesting. I feel like they'd be fine giving away the Rakan, because we know Team 1, they'd probably just pick another range support in the form of something like a Karma. Perhaps just locking in your mid laner now could be good. And then you have that potential for a counter pick with more mid laners available, and that's what they decide to go for. They're going for a bit of an aggressive roaming style mid, which is kind of what we expected from Marth.
Yeah, 100% what we want to see from Marth. He is the player that's brought in when they want to be a bit more aggressive, when they want to play the map a little bit more, and Team One are starting to show their fangs, show us their claws through this first phase. Now we're getting into the second phase of bans, the Kog'Maw being removed by Team One. Can take the Xayah away as well if they want to really
That's
hamper
what I would expect,
Pattern's pool.
That is the expectation, whereas 927 Fenerbahce, we talked about how the Thresh is considered a pretty good answer into the Janna. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something like a Rakan banned away too, with the Alistar already gone. There aren't a huge amount of engaged supports left. The fact that the Cho'Gath has been banned away, to me, suggests that Team One are actually thinking about going for the Maokai here. We've seen how pivotal that pick seems to be in this series. And then they can just first rotate it, take away the Cho'Gath, and it forces Thaldrn to perhaps play a non-tank in the top lane, something like the Gnar, maybe even the Trundle, which we haven't really seen from him in this tournament so far.
Vert is more the Mundo and the Trundle player up towards that top side, so he will know those matchups incredibly well. Is the Maokai banned from Fenerbahce, so the Rakan is still on the cards for Team One if they want it. They can leave it for last if they so desire and look towards top lane here, or they could try and counter out that top lane final pick.
Interesting that they would go for the Braum. Now, you have to remember this champion still can give you that all-in potential. It's just a little harder to execute. You got to go for like the flash, ulti, Q, set up for the passive, but then you've obviously got the Janna who can be like, ha, no, I'm gonna blow you away. And then that engage from Braum just kind of whiffs. So you don't have as much all-in potential. You rely on additional support or additional CC to get the setup, and then the Braum can maybe follow up. But what you definitely have is disengage with this support locked in for the side of Team One.
And the Twitch locked in for Pattern in that bottom lane alongside the Janna. That is not a lane-winning lane. Finally, Thaldrn will get the Gnar, and we have a counter pick available for Team One in that top lane.
Now the question is, does Vert play things like the Jace and the Kennen? So far in this tournament, we are yet to see him bring it out, but they're gonna bring out the Olaf.
Sejuani top, Vedius.
No, I think it's Olaf top.
I think it's Olaf jungle, Sej top.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Surely not.
We'll see. We will wait and see. Before that happens, you've got the synergy, of course, of the Braum and the Sej. Great stun combo there. Forlan is known for his Olaf jungle. And Sejuani top is not something we commonly see, but it looks like it is what's going to be Team One's strategy here.
Okay, so they have until 20 seconds normally to lock in their swaps and confirm that everything that they want to do. With a few seconds left on the board, it does seem like that it will be the Sejuani top.
And this is what I love to see from teams that are from emerging regions that are trying to stamp their mark on international competition. They are confident in their ability to play things that aren't always seen as part of the meta. You've got Sejuani top, you've got Olaf in the jungle, and you have these comfort picks for Team One that they are very willing to fight up against Fenerbahce with.
Now, he has brought this pick out during the summer regular season, and it's going to be interesting to see how it works, because personally, I'm not that accustomed to seeing a Sejuani up in the top lane. Sejuani versus Gnar, definitely a unique matchup. We get to experience it together for the first time, Medic, which is going to be a lot of fun. And we'll talk through how it works out, but in terms of the team comps, you're definitely seeing a kind of 1-3-1 setup from the side of Team One. They have the double teleport with the LeBlanc. They're going to be looking to try and get an early snowball off onto Marth so that he can roam around the map, start impacting off on these side lanes. Very much what we expected from the player, whereas 1907 Fenerbahce, they have this cross between big team fighting power with both the Twitch and the Gnar in his mega form, while also being able to play on the side lanes, the sneaky pick potential that a Twitch does have. A lot of interesting stuff going to be happening in this game, and already we're off to a bit of a level 1 shenanigans coming out from Team One.
Pushing forward as a 5-man here, trying to catch out a member of Fenerbahce, but the axe will miss. Ghost comes out from Forlan as well. This is very aggressive. Perhaps thought that Redbird would hit the Winter's Bite there. He did not connect, and so Team One will give